Today we talk about the Rune Knight's runes, and then we also take a quick moment to talk about feats. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, coming to you with another episode for the 5th edition Rune Knight. Today taking a look at their runes and what exactly those will do for you. But before we get into that, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you're already part of such a legendary roster of people, then go on down and hit the like button and share the video far and wide to help us grow ever further. But now, let's go ahead and get into this. So, to begin with your runes, these kick in for you at 3rd level, and you're going to pick 2 runes that you meet the level requirements for. You'll learn a total of 5 at level 15. And remember that at each level that you advance in as a fighter, with this Rune Knight subclass, you will be able to swap out runes for other runes. So you can try out different ones as you go along. So you only technically know 5 runes, but you can swap them out and learn others. So don't be afraid to play around and see what works best for you or what you use most frequently. And then, after a long rest, you touch a number of objects that you can wear or hold equal to the number of runes you know. If your rune has a saving throw, the DC is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier. So your con is doing more than just being your constitution saving throw or giving your hit points in this instance. This will be a very useful stat for you to keep buffing, not just for combat. And then we get to the actual runes themselves. We have the Cloud Rune. You gain advantage on dexterity sleight of hand checks and charisma deception checks. Also, when a creature you can see within 30 feet is hit by an attack, you use your reaction to choose another creature within 30 feet to be the target of the attack using the same roll, regardless of range. So, this is really useful as a defensive option and giving you a little bit of battlefield control. And this is also a reason why I recommend going sword and shield to boost your AC just a little bit further. Because if you're the only other creature within 30 feet and it's a squishy character like a mage or somebody you're supposed to be protecting, some important NPC, you can redirect the attack to yourself. You're tough enough to deal with it, and your armor class is probably going to be high enough to deflect most of those attacks. So definitely a very useful rune to have in your roster. And then after that we have the Fire Rune, and I really like this one. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for using your proficiency with tools. So if you're making a dexterity check using thieves tools, then you have your proficiency bonus doubled. It doesn't matter quite as much that dexterity is or dump stat. It still has an effect, but you can still get away with quite a bit of things. Disguise kits, blacksmithing tools, which you are automatically proficient with for taking this subclass option. Also, when you hit a target with a melee attack, you can spend this rune to bind them with fiery shackles. This will deal 2d6 fire damage and force a strength saving throw, or they will be restrained for 1 minute. Damage and saves are repeated each turn on the target's turn. So, this is just a great damage modifier on top of the fact that you are restraining a target, more battlefield control, and a higher damage output. So absolutely, this is probably one of the first runes that you should pick, as this will make up for the fact that in this instance you're only using a sword one-handed. This will boost your damage well past what you were originally doing. And then we come to the next rune, which is the Frost Rune, and this one is probably the least effective rune out of everything you can select. This will give you advantage on wisdom, animal handling checks, and charisma intimidation checks. When you activate this rune, for 10 minutes you gain a +2 bonus to your strength and constitution saves. This will probably be most useful earlier on, but as you advance and gain in level, since these are 2 saves that you are likely proficient with, this will be less and less useful as your proficiency bonus advances. That +2 modifier will mean less and less. So early on, probably useful, but later on, not so much. The only exception to this would be is if you are going with more of a mounted build, or leaning more heavily into your charisma, gaining advantage on wisdom animal handling. Being a mounted character doing mounted combat, this will probably be more useful for you. And this is part of what makes the Rune Knight such an interesting and really, really useful class. The different runes will give you advantages on different checks. So whatever you're building and speccing into, this will help to capitalize on it. So you do get a little bit of flexibility, but for what we're going for, the Frost rune is not ideal. But what is ideal is the Stone rune. This will give you an advantage on wisdom insight checks, and you have dark vision out to a range of 120 feet while this rune is active. So both of those are pretty good, and then really, really good. And then when a creature you see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to force a wisdom save. On failure, the creature is charmed for 1 minute, incapacitated. This save repeats each turn, but for 1 minute, having them incapacitated is awesome. And the fact that you're affecting a variety of different saves in this instance is great. I mean, wisdom saving throw, not everybody has a great wisdom saving throw. This is perfect for you to attack from different angles. And then we also have the Hill rune. This gives you advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance against poison damage. And poison is definitely much more of an issue in 5th edition than it had been in 3rd and Pathfinder. Also, you can activate this rune as a bonus action to gain resistance on bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage for up to 1 minute. Absolutely fantastic. This helps make you even tankier. You are already using really high armor, throwing in a shield, and then capitalizing on the fact that you can use the Hill rune to give yourself resistance to damage. You'll be damn near unstoppable. But then we also have the Storm rune, which is another great one. You have advantage on intelligence arcana checks, and you can't be surprised if you aren't incapacitated. You also can invoke the rune as a bonus action, and for 1 minute you give either yourself or a creature you can see advantage or disadvantage on an attack roll, saving throw, or an ability check. So again, you can really cause a whole lot of havoc on the battlefield, and giving yourself advantage on attacks, if you so choose, that's massive, especially as you grow to large size or huge, and you're dealing double or triple damage dice just on your regular rolls before you even get to critical hits. And then the fact that you can't be surprised is amazing. This is essentially a prophetic rune that gives you the insight that storm giants typically have. So all the way, really, really great. But now there's just something here I want to talk about real quick that had come up in the last video, and that's regarding feats. Now with feats, feats are useful, and I don't mind them in any stretch, way, or form. I mean, I play Pathfinder, played 3rd edition, so I just come from a game that uses feats pretty regularly. But in 5th edition, if you're new to this game, uses them as an optional rule. And because they're an optional rule, they're not always going to be useful at every table. So that's why I didn't initially talk about feats in this instance, or talk about more optimized options, especially coupled with feats. I wanted this guide to be useful to someone in that situation. And also some feats that were suggested in the last video, the Loremaster by Daniel. It does present a little bit of a challenge in addition to a lot of benefits. Specifically, when we get to attacks of opportunity. Attacks of opportunity use your reactions, and you get 1 reaction each round. Runes, like the Cloud rune, use your reactions up, so you may not always have an attack of opportunity available to you when you have such a massively increased size. And as far as I'm aware, there's not really any way to give yourself more attacks of opportunity. Pathfinder you could with combat reflexes, and it was the same for 3rd edition, 3.5, and I believe 4th edition, but not so much here in 5th edition. So this presents a little bit of a challenge to you. Do you use your reaction and forego the ability to use your rune, or do you use your rune and forego the ability to make an attack of opportunity? Also, the Loremaster feat. this uses bonus actions to deal 1d4 damage. So you attack and you deal your main damage, and then you use your bonus action to attack with the butt end of the weapon. Absolutely fantastic. Historically accurate as well, but the thing is that it uses your bonus action, and the Hill Rune requires you to use your bonus action. So there's a little bit of a resource gamble at play here. You have to strategize and think about it. Not to say that you shouldn't take this, absolutely. Coupled with the large size and an increased area of effect, you can do a lot more for battlefield control, and the weapon does 1d10 points of damage. Halberd, if I remember right, that's what was suggested. A halberd does 1d10 points of damage. So you're going up to 2d10 or 3d10 once you hit huge size. So there's definitely something to weigh and consider there. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. And the fact that you're affecting a wider area, you're able to affect multiple squares, and you're blocking multiple squares means you are a force to be reckoned with. But again, it comes at the cost of your ability to utilize and activate some of your runes. It's not as much of an issue once you hit, the point that you can use your runes twice overall, because then you can fire one rune and keep it going for a whole minute at a time, and then you're able to lay into people with the glaive, and you're using your glaive or halberd or whatever polearm, and then you're using polearm weapon master to inflict extra damage, which I would rule personally that extra 1d4, once you go up to larger sizes, that does go up to 2d4 and 3d4, so it does make that feat that much more beneficial. But bear in mind that there is something to consider there. It's not a fully, there's all benefits and no drawbacks to this. It's a drawback, but it's minor in that you just have to weigh what your options are. So just something to think about there. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Do you think I covered the runes well? Do you think I covered the feat option well, specifically covering the polearm master feat? Let me know your thoughts down below and we'll engage in discussion. Even if you didn't like the video, still let me know your thoughts and hit the dislike button. Or if you're already subscribed to the channel here, then share the video far and wide. And if you're new here to the channel, then go on down and subscribe. I did that out of order, but my goodness, I've tried so many takes now. We're just going to roll with this. I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.